today I'm going to do my May wrap up. May was my exam month, apart from I have one more exam tomorrow which I said to be studying for, but I'm not. I'm taking a little break by filming. So I said I wasn't going to read a lot, and I didn't give myself a challenge for this month because I wasn't going to read a lot. Then I ended up reading about 9 or 10 books depending on how you count it. So let's get started with this because it might be a bit of a long one. So let's go. The first book I finished this month was Cress by Marissa Meyer. This is the third book in the Lunar Chronicle series, so I'm not going to say too much about it because I have reviews of Cinder. I don't know if I have a review of Scarlet. If I do, it'll be linked down below. But this third book, so spoilers, so not going to discuss it. But I read this with my friend Mel at the beginning of the month, and I took it camping with me, and it got a bit ruined by water. But, oh well, it's just an object. It's fine. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I liked it, but I did not like it as much as Scarlet. I loved Scarlet, and I don't know why I didn't like this one as much. I loved Cress and Thorn's relationship with each other, and if you want to see a review of this, I'd be happy to do one, so yeah. The next book I read was for a review, and that was Love Letters to the Dead, and I got this one from Hotkey Books. It's by Ava Delaria, and I absolutely love this book. I've reviewed it, so I'm not going to say too much, but it's now on my favourite shelf because I loved it that much that it deserves a place on my favourites shelf. So yeah, I haven't reviewed this, so I'm not going to say too much, but it really, really touched me, and you should all read it. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars, obviously. The next book I read was the completion of a trilogy, and that was Ignite Me by Tara Maffey. I have a review of this too, so I'm not going to say too much, but just know I loved it so much. And yeah, it was perfect, just a perfect ending to the trilogy. A lot of trilogies leave it really open, and I feel like this one was a perfect end. I finished 3 series this month. That's really good. I'm really proud of myself for that. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. Next, I went on to my next series that I went to complete in this month, and that was Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. This is the second book in the Infernal Devices trilogy, the prequel series to the Immortal Instruments. I'm not going to tell you much about this because, well, I have a review of the whole series, and it's the second book, so I can't really tell you too much anyway. But just know I loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, just like Clockwork Angel, although I did enjoy this one a lot more than Clockwork Angel. So yeah, that's that. Next, I read the only kind of iffy book I read this month, and that was I Tell You I Love You, But Then I'd Have to Kill You by Ali Carter. This is the first book in the Gallagher Girls series, and it follows a girl who goes to spy school who falls in love with a boy in the town of the spy school who, like, they're not really allowed to fraternize with the people who aren't in the spy school. So she, like, starts sneaking out and stuff. Well, I liked this book enough to give it a iffy 4 stars. It was the only book that I kind of, like, didn't love this month, really. I think every other book I really loved, and this was the only one I wasn't really excited about. I don't really remember a lot that happened in it. It wasn't really a memorable book, and I don't know if I'm going to continue on with this series. My friend says it gets better, but if any of you have read the series and say it gets better, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. The next book I read was City of Lost Souls by Cassandra Clare. This is the 5th book in the Mortal Instruments series. I read this to get caught up for City of Heavenly Fire. And I loved it. I loved it a lot. I gave it 5 stars if I recall correctly, and I really love Clary and Jason in this one. It was so good, and I know everybody says they hate Sebastian. Everyone told me I'd hate Sebastian in this book, but I still blame Valentine for him. I still don't hate him that much, so unpopular opinion. But yeah, I don't hate him that much. I hate what he does and what Valentine made him. So yeah, that's City of Lost Souls. Next is probably my favourite of the month, and the second series I finished, and that was Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare, and this is the last book in the Infernal Devices trilogy, and I loved it. I read this along with Book Loving Jess. I will link her channel down below, but I loved it so much, and it was so good discussing it with her. It was really good. So yeah, I loved it. 5 stars. The next book I read was my Christine book of the month, and that was Chasing Jupiter by Rachel Coker. I have a written review of this on my Tumblr. I will link that down below because I do written reviews of my Christine books because I get them published in my church's magazine. All the books I've read for the church I've kind of really liked, but none of them I have loved until I read this one. This one really spoke to me and I really loved it. It's about a girl called Ruby whose brother Cliff has, we think autism, but it's never really established what he has. And everybody doesn't really like them and they have quite a hard family life, and for his birthday, Cliff says he wants a rocket to Jupiter, and Scarlet promises to make that happen with the help of the peach farmer's son, Frank. And I really, really enjoyed it. I hated what happened in this book. It made me cry so much, and I really, really recommend it. This was 5 out of 5 stars. And the last kind of book that I finished in May was The Son of Neptune by Rick Riordan. This is the second book in the Heroes of Olympus series, and I love this series, I really do, and I love this one because Percy. This book had a lot more Percy in it than Lost Hero did, and I really, really enjoyed that because I love Percy. Percy is probably my favourite character, although I do love all the side characters as well. I love the romance between Frank and Hazel, and I think I'll do a whole series review of this because I didn't do a review of Lost Hero, so I'm going to do a whole series review when I finished up to House of Hades, not Blood of Olympus, because that's a while away. So yeah, I really loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And the sort of last book I finished in May was City of Heavenly Fire, and I don't have it at the moment because I did lend it out to my boyfriend's mum who doesn't have it yet, but I loved it. It was such a good ending to the series. I loved it so much and I was so happy with the ending. I really, really was. I gave it a solid 5 out of 5 stars. It was probably the easiest 5 out of 5 stars that I think I've given, and I really loved it. I loved it. I loved it. And the reason I say it's kind of the last book I finished because I finished the last 100 or ish pages on the kind of morning of June 1st. It was like just past midnight, so it counts on Goodreads for June, but I'm counting it for May because let's go with that. So that was my May wrap up, and I will see you next time, probably in my June TBR. I will see you then. Goodbye.